to think about it, they have a lot of their college friends there, kids that they go to college with. You have the student sections there. Your family's usually always there in college, and they're always very vocally supportive. So the college football atmosphere is the greatest atmosphere of any sport, and I think it's going to be a real struggle in college football not having fans. At this point, I don't even care if you take the school band and spread them out over the whole section of 101 and have, 20 fans in section 102 and, 30 fans in section 305. Like, I think college football is going to be a different animal and a very different play style, different atmosphere. I think it's going to affect college football more than it will any other sport. We're going to talk about UFC 249 in just a moment, but UFC 249 had absolutely no fans, and it really didn't bother me. I really didn't care as much. But college football is different. College football, they really feed off the energy of those fans. So it's going to be tough to see these colleges without their home crowd and without the student section and without their parents and everybody being able to be there. It's a tough time we live in. Especially if you're on the sports side of it. Getting into the podcasting world, I've been able to talk to a lot of people that are involved with college football and involved in the NFL scene, and they're more worried on the college level with the sports and athletics than they are on the professional level, because people will still pay and watch UFC fights. People will still pay and watch an NBA game. People will still pay and pay attention to the NFL if there's no fans in the crowd. But in college, it's a lot different. A lot of people enjoy the atmosphere. A lot of people that are casual fans enjoy watching college football because they play a lot harder. The atmosphere is a lot more fun. So, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to make college football take a hit, or I don't know if people are so longing for college football that it might not matter at all. It didn't matter at UFC. It didn't matter in anything else I've watched so far. It's a little odd at first, but at the end of the day, I don't think there's any atmospheres quite like the college basketball, college football, college anything atmospheres. They're a lot more fun. It's, in my opinion, a lot more competitive throughout the whole year. Like professional sports, NFL is very competitive, and I think that's why it has such a big traction. The NBA, it takes until about Christmas Day where it starts getting interesting, and then it takes until about after the All-Star break for them to really get into it defensive-wise. So I'm interested to see what happens with college football here. And as I just mentioned, let's go ahead and walk actually into UFC 249 and actually the UFC as a whole. So this week, the UFC has debuted 3 different fight nights. Started off with UFC 249, which will go down as one of the greatest fight cards in history. Then we're moving on to a couple more fight nights, all on ESPN+. So an interesting fact, the reason that UFC is pumping out so many fights is their contract with ESPN+ announces that they have to have a certain amount of fights and a certain amount of events and produce a certain amount of revenue for ESPN, or their contract is voided. UFC took 249, which would have been spread over, if this was spread out, it would have been spread over probably 4 different fighting nights. You had at least 4 main events that I watched that all could have been on different fight cards, and this could have been spread out over the next 4 months. Now all got pushed to one day, which as a fan was incredible, being able to sit back and watch some of the greatest fights I've ever watched. With Henry Cejudo, which might go down as the greatest mixed martial artist in history, standing tall at a whopping 5'4", who took on Dominic Cruz, who had been out of the sport for a few years but only had 2 losses on his record, a very good fighter. Bunch of great matchups. The prelims were performing just as well as the main event cards. As I mentioned, the UFC did have to put on this event to fulfill a contract obligation to ESPN+. The only problem I had with the whole ESPN+ thing was the fact that they're still charging me $60 to watch this fight. Especially during these hard times. If I'm ESPN+, if I'm ESPN, if I want to draw as many eyes to ESPN as possible and I want people to get onto the platform, why not move this to ESPN for free? You get a ton of more eyes on it. millions of more viewers because the fights are free. And why not say tonight only ESPN Plus for $12, $22, for the year, $12 a month, whatever it is. $12 for the month and you get unlimited access to all the UFC fights. I think that would have been a lot smarter. Me personally as a fan didn't appreciate that they're charging the average fan $84 and now they have to have an account on ESPN Plus with it. It's $84 was the deal that they were running, where it was you can buy the fight and you get ESPN Plus for the year for $84, which is it's a really good deal, but not a lot of people are going to use ESPN Plus. I do sports podcasting, and I am obsessed with sports, and I use my ESPN Plus, but the average fans of UFC or people that just want to watch, a fight night, getting a subscription to ESPN Plus doesn't really help them. So I would have dumped all this onto ESPN for free, and then I would have run a deal for your ESPN Plus platform. And I think you would have gotten a whole lot more attraction that way, pushing people to your ESPN Plus site, than if you just kind of bullied them into, you want to watch this fight? Well, if you don't have an ESPN Plus account, it's $84. If you do, it's $60 to still watch these fights. Now, don't get me wrong, UFC fans were used to paying, and I'm used to paying that pay-per-view to watch these matchups, and it is, if you're a fan, it is well worth the price of admission. If you're an avid UFC fan, the bigger fights usually are well worth the price of admission. The last time Conor McGregor fought Khabib, I bought that fight and I got to witness a full-out brawl with Khabib and Conor's people after the fight. So I'm a big fan in the whole pay-per-view, and I understand why UFC has to do it. But ESPN Plus, I really think, could have made a whole lot more money and brought a whole lot more eyes if they would have run a lot cheaper deal and would have gotten a whole lot more eyes to it, or just make the price reasonable. Make it $22 for the fight and for ESPN Plus for the next 3 months so people can try it out. I don't know. That's just my opinion, but back to UFC 249. What an incredible fight night. What an incredible main event, co-main event, the fights before the main events. You had Cejudo and Cruz. You had Tony Ferguson and Justin Gaethje, which, congratulations, Justin Gaethje fought the greatest fight of his entire life. I'm a big Tony Ferguson fan, and I think that if Tony Ferguson had fought Khabib, Tony Ferguson would have demolished Khabib. Tony Ferguson was ready for Khabib, and he was not ready for Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje is a striker, someone who likes to sit there and pound for pound, just pound it out with you. Khabib is a ground expert, someone who likes to get you on the ground and then ground and pound. But overall, even though Justin Gaethje dominated that fight, it was still exciting to watch. It was exciting to watch the masterful performances by Gaethje, by Henry Cejudo, Francis Ngannou, and Rozenstruik. Ngannou knocked him out within the first 18 seconds. Hardy and DeCastro. I mean, we had Cowboy and Pettis were on the prelims. Two incredible fighters. Pettis is ranked number 2 in the entire world in his division. So, congratulations, UFC 249. Congratulations to Dana White and UFC in general. You've put on great fight nights. You have given the fans and you've given spectators of sports good content. I've been very pleased with UFC. UFC have gone out of their way. They made sure that they had all the right testing. Everybody had all the masks on. And I really wish some of these sports would start opening up just like UFC is doing. Because I'd love to see the NBA. The NBA has announced that within the next 2 to 4 weeks, their full end-of-season plan will be unveiled. The Lakers have now opened their practice facility. So there's a lot of teams on this movement. I would love to see the NBA start moving forward with this. The NFL, we've been told, and college football, we've been told, will probably start on schedule and will be fine. But congratulations, Dana White and UFC. Incredible fight nights, incredibly fun to watch. without a crowd there, it didn't really bother me. I thought it would, but it was definitely weird at the beginning when they were announcing names and then you had two people in their camp just clapping. You know, it was kind of awkward. But once you got past the feeling of it after the first couple of fights, it went over very well. Incredible fight night, and congratulations Dana White and UFC. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the show today. I do want to do a special shout out to Paul Westphal. I mentioned him last week on the podcast. Paul Westphal is a former NBA champion, 5-time NBA All-Star, coached against Michael Jordan, coached Charles Barkley with the Phoenix Suns. He's in the Hall of Fame. His jersey's retired with the Phoenix Suns. His jersey's retired at USC. Paul Westphal had an incredible interview with him this past Monday. Paul Westphal will be commentating on the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary that drops for the Locker Room 5/19/2020. That's right, this coming Tuesday, the Michael Jordan documentary drops with commentary from Hall of Famer Paul Westphal. And the following week, we do have the Michael Jordan-LeBron James debate here on the Locker Room as well. That date is 5/26/2020. Make sure you put these dates in your calendar. Bookmark the next 2 episodes of the Locker Room. They are something special that you will not want to miss. Paul Westphal also commentates on the Michael Jordan-LeBron James debate and actually gives us an answer to who he thinks the all-time GOAT is. So it was just an incredible experience getting to sit down and talk with an NBA legend. Very awesome episodes that you do not want to miss. So the 19th and the 26th of May, mark those in your calendar. Mark it on your podcast or however you may be listening. Make sure that you're there. You don't want to miss NBA Hall of Famer Paul Westphal commentating and talking about Michael Jordan. It's something that is out of this world. So thank you to all who may be listening. Thank you, Paul Westphal, for the time that you took out to shoot our next 2 specials. Make sure you're there. You're in the seats, ready to listen. I want to thank Levi Bowman and the Levi Bowman podcast for having me on again last week. You can find their content and all the shows that we've done over at the Levi Bowman podcast in the link below. Please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that link. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everything. We are out there. Keep us up to date. Continue to send in your emails. Continue to let me know what you're thinking of the show. I appreciate it, guys, so much. I don't think you understand. Appreciate all the love we've gotten so far. I'm Jacob Courtright, and this is The Locker Room.